Welcome to the Connection Central Industry Podcast, where real conversations meet real strategies. Each episode we dive into the industries that keep Australia moving, talking with the leaders, innovators, and everyday operators, shaping what's next. So settle in, turn it up, and let's get into it.
Hi everybody, Michelle O'Hara here from Connection Central. Very lucky today to have Brendan Cowie with us from Cowie Environmental. Welcome, Brendan.
Thank you, Michelle.
So, Brendan, start for us. Tell the audience a little bit about Cowie Environmental, a little bit about your journey and how you got to doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah, no worries. Look, Cowie Environmental has been around for just over 10 years. Started the business by myself here in Brisbane. I guess off the back of industry experience that I've had at the time for close to 20 years. We're very much, I guess, not necessarily a specialty environmental consultancy, but we very much have a niche in terms of what we do as a business. We're in the space in multiple sectors. We generally tend to focus on 4 areas. So mainly at the moment, we sit in that sort of construction space. We look in the water space as well, infrastructure and mining. So we have quite a broad skill set. And I guess as a business, we're also quite unique in what we do, is that we tend to, even though we're a smaller team than some of the big consultancies, we tend to actually focus on major projects, which for a business of our size is actually quite unique.
And I think one of the things about you guys is the fact that you have such a broad repertoire of ability and experience. So in comparison, I guess, to the bigger boys, are you all able to go in and sort of adapt fairly quickly to environments, provide solutions that others might not necessarily be able to do?
Yeah, I think so. Look, and it's our experience, the collective experience of the team, and not just by me, like my experience in itself. The collective experience of the team allows us to, I guess, punch above our weight compared to some of the other consultants, and it's that exposure piece, right? Look, a lot of the things and experiences based on exposure and have an opportunity. So we tend to be able to deliver it at a higher level than what people would actually anticipate.
Nice. So now you've been in business 10 years. You know how they say you have the overnight success. It's usually about 11 years.
Yeah.
So close. Share with us some of the learnings, I guess, that you've come out with at this stage.
Yeah, look, I think I was thinking about this the other day, knowing that I was coming on, but I think one of the biggest learnings that I've probably had that sort of I've realized most recently is actually having a plan and sticking to it. I would say hands down the biggest learning. It's kind of difficult, obviously, as time goes on, I guess the experience that I've garnered in the 10 years of running the company, but having a plan is critical. And having the ability to execute that plan is the next level. But it's also, not being swayed to change that plan as well. The plan that I started when I established Cowie was to grow it into a national business. And, we've had growth and we've also had downturn, but that is still ultimately the plan, right? And that is my focus for the next sort of 5 to 10 years, is to ensure that Cowie Environmental has a national presence and that we can actually operate at a level of potentially 60 to 80 people.
Very exciting. And so if you don't mind sharing, obviously offline we talked, you've had a few health challenges recently. Do you mind sharing with the audience a little bit about that and how it's affected the business, affected your thinking, influenced what you do different now?
Yeah, look, more than happy to share that. I think the last 5 months for me personally, and even for the business, has been super challenging. The back end of last year, I ended up having an episode in the office here on a Thursday that required being put in an ambulance. I had a hypertensive episode that was potentially leading to either a stroke or a heart attack, which was not great. I'd never wish it on anyone because it was quite challenging. I'm just fortunate, we have quite a caring team here, and the guys sort of jumped into action, called the ambulance, and the ambulance was here pretty quickly. We're quite fortunate that we're here right in Brisbane City and Spring Hill, and the local hospital is not far away. So I got rushed to the hospital, ended up getting discharged within a day, but within less than 24 hours, I was back in the hospital. So it was not a great time. That was back end of November. So it's a time where a lot of things shut down. Did a lot of tests, stayed in hospital actually for 6 days. So it's the longest I've ever been in hospital. And not knowing what was wrong with me as well, which was, I think, mentally was super challenging. It was also put quite a lot of strain on my family and even work here as well. We were super busy at the time. I was helping out quite a big client and I essentially had to walk away from it. And then it wasn't until the new year I actually found out the first diagnosis. So I found out I've got two things that's actually have caused that. One is actually severe sleep apnea, which my sleep doctor said my numbers were some of the highest that he's seen for quite some time. So that had been resolved. Then I thought everything was okay. Then I went to my cardiologist as a follow up after presenting with hypertension, and then I found out that I had some blockages in my heart. So, which resulted in me having to get an angiogram and angioplasties put in. So it's been, from a personal perspective, we'll just touch on that, and then we'll get on the business side of things. For me personally, mentally, it's been a huge challenge. I'm not the kind of person that likes to sit still, so I've been in pretty much forced rest. And even the operation, the sleep apnea took a while and then I sort of started recovering. But angiogram is a kind of I guess, a basic operation, but it's really made me fatigued and I've lost a huge amount of fitness and I've had to do a big lifestyle shift as well. So I'm on a diet. I've already lost 8 kilos. I don't drink anymore, or at the moment,
At the moment.
stop caffeine. Well, I may not drink again. Stop caffeine. Definitely won't have caffeine again, and very much turn my lifestyle around. And partly with that, and touching on the work side of stuff, prior to that, I was working 6, sometimes 7 days a week. That the environment that I was in, and we'll call it that, probably contributed to me getting sick as well. We have a genetic thing in our family that has obviously caused the blockages in my heart. So genetically, I have high cholesterol. My father had it. My brother has it. We've just obviously have that predisposition to this. It's unfortunate because I'm still young. I'm not even 47. But I guess the good thing, and that's what my cardiologist said, was the good thing is that now I know and now I can manage it. So I'm very much taken note. I'm not going to continue down that same path. So my goal is to find that work-life balance. I was really strict with even our employees in the past about them having work-life balance. But as I mentioned, I would work 6 or 7 days a week. I'm not doing that anymore. So in terms of the impact on the business, we lost a significant amount of revenue because I was sick. A lot of the things that I do in the business is obviously the leader, but also I do a lot of the BD side of stuff, finding new opportunities. So with that, we had a 5-month lag in terms of BD and business opportunities, which is obviously we've seen that impact. It's not a big deal. I'm not stressed about anything anymore, which is good. But we'll make it up. We'll find work. We already have, we have our really solid clients that we work with and have worked with for a long time that, took a couple of conversations and we're busy again. Always want more because, as I mentioned, I want to grow the business and have a national business. But what's resulted in this as well is that I'm now going to focus on working on the business. And lots of people talk about that terminology, and I still need to work out what that means for me. But ideally, I'm going to put that focus on that business plan. The business plan for us this year is to grow back to at least 14 people. And then from there, we'll look to growth year on year in terms of people, and then just open up opportunities in those sectors that I mentioned as well.
Nice. One of the things I think is a gift of yours, Brendan, is your ability to create really strong relationships with people. And I think that's, how you've grown Cowie Environmental to, to the point it's at. Have you got some pointers for anybody out there? Quite often from a sales perspective and a growth perspective, we have the plan, but people are a bit scared to pick up the phone or scared to talk or scared to actually ask for business. And I think it's an area that you absolutely excel in. Have you got any pointers for people around that?
Yeah, I think the main thing is, and this is what I do, so it's an example of what I do, is just be yourself. Don't pretend to be someone else, and you are right. Like, we have really strong relationships with our clients, and I don't try to pretend to be someone that I'm not. And I'm completely honest with our clients as well. If things are going to work, I'll say things are going to work. If they're not, I'll tell them they're not going to work. But predominantly, I am who I am and I'm not going to change. So it's about being yourself and just creating that, I guess, level ground. Like, we have some clients that, we can have really challenging conversations with each other, and 2 minutes later we're laughing, giving each other a hug, right? So, and they're the relationships that I really strive to achieve with each individual that I meet. The other thing as well, and just the biggest thing, is that if you're not asking them for work, someone else is. That's a really key thing, right? And just don't be scared. Don't be scared to ask, because what's the worst they can do is say no. And that's just kind of the motto. And that's probably, even with being sick and moving forward with the business, that is more embedded in me now than ever.
You make it sound so simple.
I don't know. Look, I guess prior to starting my career, so I didn't go to university until I was the year I turned 21 because I was doing other things. I was off doing other things. And some of my early jobs were sales jobs, and I just took to it. I was just never I was never scared to ring people. And in that early days, like we're talking, I don't know how many years ago was that? 26 years ago, and longer, that we'd just be given a list of people in this one sales job, I remember, and it was just a printed out list. And I had to ring up people and ask them for work essentially and try and sell stuff to them. And there were other people in the office that did similar job. They didn't like doing it. And I loved it because I just chat to people, right? Like a lot of the business development stuff that I do with our clients and prospective clients is just talking and listening, which I do love to talk, which sometimes is hard for me to listen, but that's what it is. It's about building a rapport with people, and you need to be prepared to play the long game. It's probably a trend that I'm seeing these days in terms of us executing work. Most new clients take us at least 6 months to convert. Historically, when I first started the business 10 years ago, it didn't take that long. And it's not necessarily with them, but everything just seems longer and longer to actually execute and to get that final approval. So be prepared that when you reach out to people, and I've done this well over years and I've done it poorly over the years, but be prepared. You need to constantly talk to people. You need to build that relationship, because if you don't, you won't win work.
Oh, wonderful. That's really good advice for people to hang in there too. It's not just a one call, give me work type situation. It's really all about building relationships, isn't it? Which is really what my Connection Central is all about. So many people might not know listening, but you're a big car racing and car fan.
Yeah.
Tell me, which I only learned recently, tell us, how do you obviously have extremely high standards, and obviously there's a bit of a very competitive edge in there as well. How does the car loving, the car racing relate to how you run business?
Yeah. Look, I'm highly competitive, as you say, which is, it's got its pros and its weaknesses as well. Sometimes push too hard, but I guess what I take from that, I guess, being highly competitive and bring it into the business. But the one key thing, I guess, even with the car racing and business, that I'm just not willing for people to say, no, you can't do that. It's probably one of the things that drives me the most as well, is that when people, there's no specific examples recently, but it's around. It's probably more my mindset that well, I'll kind of prove you wrong that I can do it. So, but another big component of car racing and even business as well is just keeping calm in business and trying not to be. And yes, I'm a pretty emotional kind of person, and I get excited easily, but being calm in a situation in business and also having the ability to think clearly is very important in car racing as well. Both those two key things. So, because decisions you're making, even behind the wheel, and even if we're not talking about racing, generally the population, the most dangerous thing you'll ever do is drive a car, ride a motorbike, right? And people do that every single day without even thinking about it. So having the ability, I guess, to be calm and center yourself to make decisions in business that are wise and looking at the long term. And then likewise, when you're racing cars as well, you could be doing 200 kilometers an hour and decide to overtake someone or cut a corner or things like that. It's quite important because the outcome could be potentially detrimental, an accident. Likewise, in a business, you can make a decision that could end up costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're not calm and you're making it with emotion.
Yeah, great advice. Really good advice. Good correlation too. I enjoyed that. So tell me, obviously, with the economy, all the changes that are going on right now, what sort of trends, what are you seeing in your industry that you can share?
Yeah, look, I think our parts of our industry are still looking pretty strong. We do quite a bit of work in the gold mining industry. That sector is obviously strong because the gold price is quite strong. The other thing, and I sort of touched on it before, the other, I guess, positive/negative trend is it seems longer for projects to get approved
Mm.
across the board. And, that this is multiple things, I believe. One's probably around the funding, how most projects are funded these days. It seems to take longer to actually get funding. You do get funding probably quicker in some of the renewables projects, but I think across the board, a lot of things take longer to get funding. The other key thing that sort of happens in my industry and specific to what we do is the approvals take longer for projects to get approved as well, which it seems like it's longer and longer. It's sort of two sides of the sword. I completely understand why. We're very pro for doing the right thing. That's probably a key part about Cowie, right? We're all about, and it's very much part of my personality as well, is doing things right the first time, not necessarily trying to speed things through. So I understand that, this day and age that people are more mindful of impacts to the environment, and therefore there needs to be a better approval process. And then it takes time, right? That's one thing that we very much communicate to our clients as soon as we're engaged by them, around that trend and it's hard to gauge because some approvals don't have legislatory timeframes in terms of how long it takes to get that approval. But we're very open and honest with clients, right? And I guess a key thing as part of the business, we just love going and talking to the regulators. As soon as we get on a project and we know that we need to get an approval, we just want to go and talk to them and just start that open communication. It sort of ties into the way that I do business development as well. It's like creating a rapport with each other and having that ability to pick up the phone and talk to each other. I've found in my recent experience that we get a better outcome when we do that kind of stuff.
Do you think with the Olympics coming up and all the infrastructure required and all the extra work that needs to be done, that things will start to move faster?
Yeah, I think particularly in Queensland, I think it will, and because they'll have to as well. There's very much a clear end date, right, in terms of the Olympic facilities and supporting facility to be ready to support that. There'll be a significant influx of people and obviously dollars to the economy as well. And if we consider that, look, we have done some work with Geico already. We're not currently doing work with them, so they're the Games Infrastructure, Independent Infrastructure Construction Authority. But what we're anticipating in terms of a trend for our business is there'll be a general uptake in terms of work that gets bolted onto the Olympics. So there'll be road infrastructure stuff that needs to be done. So it's quite a big defined package that relates to the games, but there's a lot of other things that have to be done as well. So our sort of ideal scenario is to be working around the fringes as a business and helping out where we can.
Nice, nice. I think that leads in beautifully. A lot of the conversations, the podcasts I've been having, the companies realize that there's going to be plenty of work. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to collaborate with others in the same space or identifying, what your lane is, they know what their lane is. Let's bring the two together and to be able to create better outcomes so that everything can get done. What's your sort of take on that whole collaboration piece?
Yeah, look, I think it's really important. You'll see it in a lot of big infrastructure projects where most of them are joint venture partners, and especially in our industry as well, where the bigger consultancies will actually team up. But I believe there's opportunity for companies of our size as well to do that kind of thing. I guess it's really beneficial to a business as well in terms of I guess managing your cash flow, because you can bring two teams together and then complement each other and therefore get a better outcome. And then one individual business doesn't need to carry all those people because whether we like it or not, these kinds of projects come in ebbs and flows. So there'll be a high peak and we'll need lots of bodies, and then there'll be a downturn. So as a business, it's hard to carry people through those downturns at times. We actively try to do it here because we're trying to create something different where people obviously want to feel part of the team and know that they're not just going to get moved on when things slow down. But again, as a business owner and a leader, it is hard to kind of manage that. So having that ability to team with other companies it just brings you up a different level and opens up doors to opportunities that maybe wouldn't have occurred if you weren't teaming together.
Absolutely. I think because you've grown the team, shrunk the team, growing the team. I think you realize that, like exactly what you just said, that, the future might look differently based upon what the projects are, based upon, what you're doing. And therefore you'll just be able to pull in the people as needed for certain projects, that sort of thing. Is that what
Yeah, that's it. I think it's that kind of flexible work arrangement to a degree, right? And having, highly skilled people available at your fingertips that you can with, I guess, turning them on and off in a sense, right? I'm not sure if that's a great terminology, but, there are people out there that also like that type of work as well, where they do a bit of intense work and then they'll have a break for a while and then get back into intense work. So, I think there is a future model for that type of working environment.
Well, it sounds, it's maybe that's how we get the work-life balance, because I don't really think work-life balance exists, to be honest.
No.
Sometimes we work hard, sometimes we don't. But at least with that sort of a model, we could potentially give people, like I said, the flexibility more so than which equals balance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And so is it important to you, like I guess for Cowie Environmental to have a culture when you have such high standards and you want to do a very good job, how do you instill that through culture with your people?
Yeah, look, I think historically, and it probably didn't help with my historical, let's call it work-life balance. I led by example, really, is probably my leadership style, but the way that I want to work moving forward, that needs to shift a little bit. So I think really what I'm aiming to do at the moment is to sort of let other people be themselves as well, and sort of to a degree be cultural champions and spread, we've had 2 new starters recently, and I've sort of let the other team members share with them how we do things at Cowie rather than it be me. So, which I think is working really well, actually. But we are very serious, but we also have a lot of fun too. And I'm generally the instigator as well. So we generally have a rule in the business that we work hard generally from Monday through to Thursday, and then we're generally all in the office on Friday, and Friday's fun day. We're still doing work and we're still smashing out our work for our clients, but we have a bit of a laugh and a giggle, and you just need to do that and give people space. That's probably the biggest thing I do. I am far from a micromanager, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe my staff might say otherwise, but I just want to give people their freedom to do the work within their own time and be good at it as well. But I'm also here that if they need support, they can just come straight in my office. The door is generally open, and ask me questions.
That's awesome. You're the third person this week to talk about that sort of thing. And a couple of people have mentioned they've just been to Mel Robbins' event, the Let Them, phenomenon. Let people be themselves and succeed themselves, or potentially failed, but you're there to help them and all that sort of thing. And I think from a management perspective, I don't know about you, but I know I've had to shift up a bit. Like growing up, we grew up a little bit more with, authority, and you got to work hard, and we've got that work ethic, and, you push, 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 and we will do it better than others. But has it been hard to sort of let go? Have you found?
Yeah, I still
Yeah.
think it is. I still think it is hard. So, we spoke about my health challenges and me trying to step back. But yes, I love doing work. I just love getting in the detail with our clients and even the team. And I know I have to stay out of it. So yes, it has been hard to sort of step back. But what I sort of realized that if I always get involved, I'm going to stunt people's growth. I'm just not going to give them opportunity, right? And I was historically, and I know I probably have, I was not doing it intentionally. I thought I was helping, but at times I maybe was, but at times I was probably not. So that's kind of where I'm at. And we sort of have a policy now that, I'm going to expect that everyone's okay unless you ask me for help.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so that's the new norm. So they know that expectation is there of them, and if they need help, they come to you. That's great.
Yeah. And I'm happy to help because, like I said, I love it. I don't want to be interfering with them being able to grow.
Wow, that's some big changes and lessons that I think probably a lot of businesses who are listening might have to take on board and adapt their thinking, not even just for business, but probably for their kids
Yeah.
and in general.
Yeah. Well, I think, like my ultimate goal is to grow a national business. So, and I can't do everything. I can't be everything to everyone, right? And I think I'm best placed to be the leader and push that business plan forward and look at the strategy on how we're going to achieve the outcomes. And I'll leave the rest to the team because they are more than capable. I have a team of highly skilled people here now, and I have in the past as well. So it's just allowing them to shine, right? And it's very much what we're trying to do in terms of our marketing and pushing our branding forward now is to actually put a lot of focus on our team members, because obviously the business has my last name, and historically there was times where it did revolve around me. And that's the part where to a degree, obviously I'm still the face of the business, but I want them to take some of that limelight as well, because in a lot of cases, most of them are better at their job than I am.
But that's a hard thing to say as a boss. I mean, like it's not what we've sort of been brought up to think or do, right? So that's excellent that you've arrived there.
Maybe I'm growing up and getting mature, right?
No, that's excellent. That's really good advice. So basically, if you had to give a business owner some advice going forward, like 3 things that you've learned in the last 10 or so years, what would be the 3 things you would tell them to do right now
That's a hard one. I've
to
probably
build a
already mentioned.
sustainable business?
Yeah. Okay. So the first one would be, don't give up. Don't give up on your dream. The second one, which I realized early days, is have multiple revenue streams if possible. Super important. Important for us. I don't think we'd still be around if we didn't. Predominantly when we first started, we were pretty much in the mining industry. From that point, I sort of saw the potential downturn. And obviously, there's been times where working in the mining industry is probably not the best area to be in either. So I think having multiple revenue streams is super important. And I'm just trying to think the last one. Trust people. Trust people. Yep.
Very good. And when you say multiple revenue streams, as a business owner, how did you go about identifying the opportunities?
Yeah, so the way we generally do it now, I have a lot of contacts. I've worked in Brisbane for more than 20 years. I generally, because of the way I run the business, I generally rely on contacts. And then without sort of sounding terrible, I then put them in a stream of the industry that they work in, right? And so from that, then we develop opportunity through that, generally through one-on-one conversations. I guess secondary to that, if we don't know a specific person in the industry, we do a lot of research and we use multiple platforms like LinkedIn and ICN Gateway and Vendor Panel and other avenues like that, and then understand what projects are actually happening at any one time. And then it's pretty much research. Or even in terms of getting people's contact details, I'm also happy to blind call people as well. If we could get details of someone that might be a government department, I'll just ring up and ask to talk to them, or I speak to someone in a department and ask or offer an introduction on what we do as Cowie and literally ask if we can have work. I don't often have much shame anymore in terms of that. And I get a lot of no's, but I think it's just coming back to what I mentioned earlier, is that if I'm not asking, someone else is. So yeah, that's kind of how we do it. It's a lot of research and I'll ask key contacts as well for introductions with people if I know they know them, just for me to have the opportunity to talk to someone. It might not work out, but it might.
I love it. I love it, Brendan. You make it all sound so simple, but simple. I'd love to end on is just the fact that sentence that you say, if you're not asking, someone else is. So don't be afraid to just pick up the phone and ask the question and ask for the business. I think that's a wonderful way for us to end our podcast today and to say thank you so much for sharing. It's been gold and appreciated having you today.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It's been quite enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Ciao for now.
Bye-bye.